You're the perfect blend of elegance and style, and your ride should be no different. The 2024 Hyundai Sonata Hybrid meets all your needs, from business to brunch and everywhere in between. With head-turning details like a sleek front end, plus stylish interior, and an available 12.3-inch digital instrument cluster and seamless tech integration. Okay, Hyundai. Visit HyundaiUSA.com to learn more about the new 2024 Hyundai Sonata Hybrid.
Hilton brings you new ways to stay, with experiences that let you capture the glory days. Introducing the Graduate Hotels. Each inspired by local college towns, these stays are always original and never boring. Get in touch with traditions all across the country and enjoy a stay that's a class above the rest. Book at Graduate Hotels with Hilton Honors Points at Hilton.com. It's a win-win. Hilton, for the stay.
Does it ever feel like you're a marketing professional just speaking into the void? Well, with LinkedIn ads, you can know you're reaching the right decision makers. You can even target buyers by job title, industry, company, seniority, skills. Wait, did I say job title yet? Get started today and see how you can avoid the void and reach the right buyers with LinkedIn ads. We'll even give you a $100 credit on your next campaign. Get started at linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply.
Hello and welcome to The Price of Football, the show that looks at the money behind the beautiful game with me, Kevin Day, and Liverpool University's Kieran Maguire. I'm not going to lie, Kieran. The fact that it's 8 o'clock in the morning makes your really enthusiastic 3-2-1 go even more difficult to cope with. It's 8 o'clock in the morning, Kieran. Everybody needs to know this. That for logistical reasons, we're doing this at 8 o'clock in the morning, Wednesday morning, and it's about 110 degrees out there. The cat's offering every bit of white fur she's got to the sun because the black bits are sizzling, and you're still there with a big chirpy smile on your face, Kieran.
I've been out. We had a dog walk at 6 this morning, and it's absolutely glorious. Birds are singing. The pond is full of fish and creatures, and yeah, it's a wonderful day.
No, it's not full of duckling yet, though.
not full of duckling. No.
Are they still not allowed in the pond?
No. I think next week could be debut time. I was going to say that they'll take to it like ducks to water, but they should do, shouldn't they? By definition.
Well, it's like roller coaster. If you could find another way of saying ups and downs without roller coaster. Who told you? I know all my friends are urban. I know that, but at some stage during the semi-final on Saturday, we took some time out to discuss the fact that we didn't believe that ducklings weren't allowed in the water. I mean, I know there's a lot of lads from South London going, that can't be right. Ducklings not allowed in the water. What you talking about? But we couldn't find. We Googled it. We looked for a Villa fan who might look like he was a bit rural, but nothing.
Well, perhaps we might have some secret vets amongst our listenership who could put us right.
So you say that. The worst of it is one of the people with us was a vet. Dr. Zoe, the vet, but she went, I don't do ducklings. I'm a South London vet. It's mainly mastiffs. We should say again, we came back from Rotherham yesterday. We had a lovely time. Thank you to everybody at Rotherham Football Club, who were the most friendly people you could meet and looked after us very well. And everything was very efficient. And we had a lovely time and met some lovely people.
We did. And thanks to everybody for all the different clubs. Sheffield Wednesday, Sheffield United, Barnsley, Chesterfield, Rotherham itself, of course, and a few others. Yes, it was great fun. Our scheduled finish time of, I think it was 9:15, was pushed back by around about an hour.
Yeah,
and we were finally sort of gently encouraged to leave by the doorman.
Hence my edgy looks towards the bar in the last 15 minutes, in the hope that the nice lady behind the bar would realise that she couldn't put the shutters up quite as soon as she wanted to. It's Newsday, Kieran. Sheffield Wednesday fans definitely weren't happy, were they? But Brighton fans are. I don't know how this happens, Kieran. So another team wins a title, and somehow Brighton do well out of it. It's not. Money comes to money, Kieran. It's not right, is it?
I think this is testament to good negotiation. And also, this will have happened at many other clubs as well. If you go into the small print of Brighton's accounts, it says that if certain future events take place, and this is from the 2024 accounts, the club could receive up to, I think it's an extra 54, 56 million pounds. Well, first of all, congratulations to Liverpool Football Club for winning the Premier League. Worthy winners, absolutely worthy winners.
Yep.
But when Alexis McAllister left a couple of years ago, I think the quoted fee was around about 35 million pounds, which people thought, hold on, for somebody that won the World Cup 6 months ago, that seems like a bit of a bargain. My understanding was that there was a series of add-ons to that fee. And whilst the club is, I think the phrase, the response to me was tight-lipped, i.e., go away, Maguire. I've reason to believe that yes, there will be a fairly decent thank you for the contribution made going back to Brighton as part of the deal. But this is something which is part of modern football. It shares risk. It gives reward for those clubs that are involved in development. And so on. And when you go into the small print of all of the club's accounts, it's not just the money coming in, but also the money going out. I think Manchester City, if all of their conditions in potential transfers takes place, that could cost them an extra 150, 200 million pounds. It's the same for Manchester United. It's a feature of modern football.
He's a cracking player, McAllister, but he's also mastered the art of talking behind his hand.
Yes, why do they do that?
I don't know. Trent Alexander-Arnold hasn't quite got it because he keeps dropping his hand. There was a conversation the other day when McAllister kept lifting his hand back up again. I presume they think cunning lip readers out there might learn something of either Liverpool's tactical plan or which nightclub they're heading for that evening. Who knows? Talking of Manchester City, Kieran, there's been a lot of, I think, unnecessary discussion this weekend in a lot of the tabloids and in a lot of the radio phone-ins about the fact that Man City didn't sell all their tickets for the FA Cup semi-final. A couple of friends of mine who are Man City fans furious about this, pointing out the economic factors behind not having a lot of money and having to pay a lot of money for a ticket plus a train journey on a Sunday and so on. But it's become a big story, Kieran, hasn't it?
It has. I think there were around about 5,000 unsold tickets for the match on Sunday. Pep Guardiola said after the match, this is our 7th semi-final in a row. Now, what we have here is what's referred to in economic terms as the law of diminishing returns. You know that when you go into a pub, when you go into the Porsons and you see your friends, the first pint is absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
And the second is pretty damn good, but not quite as fantastic, and so on. And this is the same. So you went to Wembley on Saturday, absolutely brilliant occasion for you and all the Palace fans, and so on, and the Villa fans as well. It was a great day out. Why? Because you've been waiting for it for so long. I think as far as Manchester City is concerned, I think this is their 30th visit to Wembley,
to the new Wembley,
in the last 15 years, and not being rude. It's another semi-final. So I worked out, I think if I'd been a City fan and had attended all of those 30 matches, factoring in transport and so on, the total cost for me would be around about £6,000. That is a lot of money. As a one-off, if you're going to a Champions League final, we know the ingenuity of football fans. You will get there, even if it involves having to go to Madrid via Reykjavik, but you will get there somehow. You'll work your way around. As somebody that travels by train from the southeast to the northwest every week, it is ridiculously expensive to travel on public transport. So all of those factors, but the tribal nature of football is this allowed the rivals of Manchester City, those clubs that perhaps have not been as successful in Manchester City, say, "Oh, you're not a big club." And what do you mean by a big club? Well, has Manchester City got as many tourist fans as some other clubs? The answer is no. Is that something to be ashamed of? No, you're South London and proud. Are you bothered that Crystal Palace doesn't have huge swathes of overseas fan clubs? I'm a Brighton fan. I feel exactly the same. In fact, you take a lot of pride that you feel that your club is attached to your local community. So Manchester City's success, we have to be completely honest here, is in recent years it is down to the investment that's been put in by Abu Dhabi and Sheikh Mansour. Nobody's denying it. Nobody denies that the clubs. You cannot just go from being sort of the Manchester City of old, and as somebody that used to go to the Kippax on a regular basis. I lived in Manchester for 40 years. It was always a great atmosphere there. This concept of big club, what exactly does that mean? So yes, there has been a lot of discussion about it. I think there are broader issues in relation to the Football Association and hosting matches. Why should people from the Northwest have to go down to London for semi-finals? And that applies to both Manchester clubs, both Liverpool clubs, and so on. So why should London be the epicentre of all of this? It does go back to when the Football Association was involved in the rebuild of Wembley. It went vastly over budget. The FA's finances were in a pretty unpleasant position. I've got their accounts for every year. Now, to be fair to the FA, they are in a much stronger financial position than they were. They've now got no debt. They made profits of around about 60 million. Their chief executive got a £500,000 bonus, which apparently was due to the success of the England men's and women's teams, which I find a bit bizarre myself. I'm not sure that I'm not sure Mark Bullingham was responsible for Cole Palmer not getting onto the pitch for most of that competition, but he got a £500,000 bonus. Yeah. So it does. So the FA is doing very well financially. We need to have a conversation about Wembley. It's a pain in the arse to get to. As somebody that goes to concerts there, if there's somebody I want to go and see, there's not a lot to do around it. Although it is a lot better than the old Wembley, that has to be conceded. So I remember going to an FA Cup semi-final at Highbury in 1983, and that was a great day out at Villa Park and Anfield and Old Trafford and the Etihad itself. And there's no reason why revamp St James's Park or Ellen Road or Hillsborough, whatever these places, they are part of football. And I do feel it should be shared. The FA does not need the money in the same way that it did many years ago. The FA's argument will be, well, it allows more fans to go to semi-finals, but Manchester City fans are saying, well, actually, we don't necessarily think that's a great thing.
Well, it allows more fans to go to semi-finals, but then 7,000 fewer get to go to the final. Because we got 7,000 less tickets for the final than we had for the semi-final, so it's going to be even more of a bun fight for Palace fans. There's a couple of things off the back of that, Kieran. I'm not bothered by not having huge supporters clubs overseas. Steve Parish is.
Yes.
He's very much bothered by it, and he's very much going along the lines of attracting as many overseas visitors as possible. I was talking to a couple of Arsenal fans just last night, in fact, before their game, and they're talking about Man City fans that turn up, and we turn up for every semi-final. Well, you're 3 miles away. Basically, it's ludicrously unfair that if Newcastle were playing Sunderland in the semi-final of the FA Cup, they've got to come to London to do it. It makes no sense. And I was pondering over the weekend why this has become a story. I don't even think it should be a story. And it's become a stick to beat Man City with, absolutely.
Yes.
And Man City are a club at the moment, everyone's assuming that they're going to be found guilty and they're jumping on their back in the time. I think this story is led by broadcasters, to be perfectly honest, because they kept mentioning all the way through on Sunday, the empty seats. Right. Because there was a big block of empty seats right in front of the camera. Having said that, the big block of hospitality seats were mainly empty as well. So no one's having a go at those people for not turning up to watch the game. So the broadcasters are almost embarrassed by going, because they're trying to talk it up as one of the biggest games in English football, but at the same time you're looking at a big block of empty seats. And of course the problem is, for segregation purposes, you can't sell those.
Yes.
The FA can't on Sunday morning go, hang on a second, there's 300 seats here unsold. We'll give them to Nottingham Forest fans, because of course the police aren't going to let us. It turns out as well, Kieran, and I didn't know this, but our friend young Mark, who's as obsessed with spreadsheets as you are, except the worrying thing is he's only 28, which is he worked out that Palace have been at Wembley 12 times. And I'm the only one out of our group that's been to all of them.
Oh, wow.
Because I'm the only one who went to the Mercantile Credit, which everybody else had completely forgotten, including me. A bizarre tournament that took place all on one day with a series of half an hour aside football games.
Good grief.
And at one stage, I'm fairly certain, there was 2 games taking place on the pitch at the same time. Those were the days. Bring back the Watley's Cup.
Oh, exactly.
Man United, Kieran, just crossing the city. Man United are finding new ways of making cutbacks.
Yes. Manchester United's Director of Scouting, Steve Brown, is leaving the club, I think on the 30th of June. I believe he was offered another role by Ineos, but he felt that for somebody of his experience, it wasn't worth taking, so he is moving elsewhere. There is a report in the Mail that there's going to be cutbacks on top of cutbacks on top of cutbacks. And at the same time, there's talk about them signing Matthias Cunha from Wolves, cracking player. Nobody's denying that. But this seems to be at odds for Offshore Jim's claim. Oh, we nearly ran out of cash at Christmas. We're going to run out of cash at Christmas, therefore we had to do these. Okay, if that's the case, then fine. So why are you going to spend £60 million on a new striker? So there's an inconsistency in terms of the noises that are coming out of the club. From what I understand, the atmosphere amongst backroom staff is still one of fear and toxicity. There's a lack of trust when anybody from Ineos comes into the room. People shut up. It's not conducive to a good working environment. And Manchester United is part of the entertainment industry. It's part of the service sector. You work in entertainment, again, part of the service sector. A happy dressing room, pre-gig means a good gig. It's the same in football. If there's an underlying environment, an atmosphere of people feeling uncertain about their futures. And remember, Manchester United did fantastic things during COVID in terms of making itself available, food parcels. It also committed to the real living wage under the Glazers. I suspect that would not have been committed to under Ineos. So this club, which has done so many fantastic things, it just appears to be going backwards. And I was reading one of the comments on when the story broke, and it says, "I worked at Grangemouth. We could see this coming from the day that Ratcliffe took over. Manchester United should not be another Grangemouth." So it's a very sad state of affairs. There's no doubt that the world of scouting is changing. So I think prior to the takeover, Manchester United had around about 140 scouts, of which 90 were part-time. I think currently that is down to be 80. And apparently Jim Ratcliffe, again, I'm quoting from the story, Jim Ratcliffe thinks that's too many. Okay. Why would a petrochemicals expert have an insider's knowledge as to the appropriate number of scouts required at one of the world's biggest football clubs? It just seems it's a culture of slash and burn. We don't like the idea of jobs. Certainly, the world of scouting is changing. With the introduce of more and more analytics, AI coming into the equation as well. Yes, there's going to be different roles, and perhaps there's not going to be as much demand. But this is just part of a broader issue of trying to cut back on headcount.
I was surprised, Kieran, to learn via a question we had at Rotherham that there were still volunteer scouts at clubs. We were asked a question from a volunteer scout about where they fit in clubs' payment schedules, P&S. So I was surprised to learn that clubs still had. I thought those days had long gone.
No, there are people who love the game, and therefore the opportunity to go along to a Premier League B match or an under-21s or a non-league match, because you've heard a couple of things. These stalwarts do a fantastic job in the world of football, but they do it for love, not money. And effectively, you get you get a free ticket for the match, you get your expenses paid for, you get to see 90 minutes of football.
When you think about super successful businesses that are selling through the roof, like Heinz or Mattel, you think about a great product, a cool brand, and brilliant marketing. But there's a secret. The business behind the business, making selling simple for them and buying simple for their customers. For millions of businesses, that business is Shopify. Upgrade your business and get the same checkout as Heinz and Mattel. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/promo, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/promo to upgrade your selling today. Shopify.com/promo.
That's your money saying it's time for a McDonald's run. Because with new McValue at McDonald's, you get more than you expect. Like buy a 6-piece McNuggets and add a McChicken for just $1. Your money says let's go. Get more than you expect with new McValue. Prices and participation may vary. Valid for item of equal or lesser value.
I'm still rationing myself on Sunderland till I die. But you only have to watch that to see how the backroom changes when new owners come in and how that tension spreads. And also there is a slight fear, I'm not the only Palace fan to point this out, that we're slightly worried that if Man United do sign Cunha, they might try and sign Mateta as well, just for the song. Just so, because Man United would love to just sing Cunha, Mateta. United might be trying to sign big players in the upcoming transfer window, Kieran, but we've talked about agents a lot recently, and here's a story about a big name that Man United missed out on. Yes,
in 2012, there was a very promising young winger called Eden Hazard playing for Lille. And I used to subscribe to a Manchester United fanzine called Red Issue. And it's what you might call old school, very militant fanzine. And the quality of the writing was fantastic. The passion behind it was fantastic. At times, it probably...
Robust.
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 And perhaps it stepped over the line on occasion.
Yeah.
But there was no doubt. And also, these guys were actually super smart. And I know that they'd identified Hazard. They knew that Manchester United were interested. And apparently, a fee was agreed between Lille. And personal terms were agreed with Eden Hazard and Manchester United. And then, apparently, the player's agent called John Biko, not a relative of Steve Biko, for Peter Gabriel fans listening amongst our audience, another 1970s musical reference there. He said, as well as all that, I want a £1 million payment made to me, which sort of goes into some sort of bank account, and X million pounds from the owners. And Manchester United, and that would have been under the reign of David Gill. David Gill is a very, very professional, very, very assured chief executive. He said, no, if we're Manchester United, we don't deal like that, and turned it down. Then, of course, Eden Hazard signed for Chelsea. there are allegations, and I think this is part of the self-reporting that we've seen under the new owners. There's allegations of a £6 million payment being made to the agent, which ended up in a bank account or went through some parties in Dubai. Not Steve Biko. Steve Biko was a great guy. John Biko is currently awaiting trial for unconnected financial offences in Belgium and had to be extradited from the UAE. So he sounds like a fine and upstanding chap, and clearly enhancing the view that some people have on agents. We have to state that I've met many agents, all are very, very professional, but there are people that discredit the profession.
Well, the trouble is, and we've had this conversation with those professional agents before, they're not a story for us.
No.
An agent, as most of them are, an agent who goes about the day doing their job perfectly well and to the satisfaction of their players and the clubs, and don't ask for backhanders, they're not the ones who get the attention. So that we only hear about the bad ones. I think Chelsea fans, right from the very start of that story, would have been worried about the implications, knowing that Chelsea did sign him, and the assumption being that Chelsea weren't as squeamish, perhaps, at that time about the methods used to sign a player. Now, Kieran, there are lots of red flags for us legacy fans about the game changing, and one of them is the fear, and I think it will happen here, but I think we'll probably be the last league to do it. But the fear that there will be competitive games played outside the country, and this is taken a step closer in Serie A.
Yes, we are men of a certain age. We have been known to go into smoky pubs in our times, and we have been known to play dominoes. And what we have here is my concern here is the domino effect. By all accounts, Serie A has received expressions of interest from promoters, i.e. people who have got no interest in football but do know how to make a dollar. Nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with being a promoter. There are promoters in music, in comedy, in other sports, many, many things. But these expressions of interest are to play competitive league games in Abu Dhabi and Australia next season. We're also aware that La Liga have dipped their toe into the water, and there's been talk about having matches, La Liga matches taking place in the United States. And once that starts, it can't stop. Nobody's going to say because let's be honest, these matches will sell out. There's a very large sort of ex-Italian population in both Australia, in the United States, and so on. You can see the passion there. It's the same with the Hispanic population, and in Abu Dhabi, they'd be absolutely delighted to host these matches as well. And they will be, it's not going to be Brescia versus Genoa. So once the clubs start to realise just how lucrative this can be, we will see La Liga, then Serie A, and then all of a sudden, the owners of some of the Premier League clubs will say, well, we don't want to do this, but we need to be competitive. We're worried about losing potential fans to these other leagues in Europe, which is absolute hogwash, of course. All they're doing is they're just interested in making money. And therefore, reluctantly, we need to have a debate and fans will be consulted. We saw this as recently as last summer, where one of the Liverpool owners was starting to talk about hosting matches overseas. And then, to be fair, John Henry, the other owner, pushed back on that idea. But the conversation, why bring it into the public domain? Fenway Sports Group are such a professional outfit that you wouldn't get a rogue owner saying, "Oh, I'll just mention this casually to a journalist." So this is all part of a much broader issue. From our point of view, Kevin, are Brighton and Palace going to be asked to play matches overseas? Probably not. But but it might be as an opponent of Manchester United and Liverpool and Chelsea. So there are, and again, you'll see some soft soaping. The guy from Liverpool said, "Oh yeah, I'm sure we can arrange somehow for the season ticket holders to fly across to New York." Okay, no, you're not talking. You're not going to get 27,000 people going across, and then where are they going to stay? 2 or 3 nights. New York hotels are not cheap, and they're also not big, as anybody's ever had that particular experience to deal with. So this is a direction of travel which I don't think I as a fan welcome, but I fear the inevitability. Whether this is something that would fall within the remit of the IFR, the Independent Football Regulator, I think it could potentially be, if there is no discussion. But again, discussion and engagement could be, we want to talk about the prospect of playing matches overseas. We're just letting you know in advance. Okay, that's engagement. We're now doing it. So we have to be very, very careful here. But the Premier League's fantastically successful, and the rest of the world apparently is entitled to go and see those matches live. Well, go and watch them live on telly, or come across here. Come over here.
Yeah, come here. We've got hotels.
Yeah.
They can come over. There are several things, Kieran. It's too early in the morning to be really miserable about the future of English football, Kieran. But you've kind of ruined my day. I was thinking last night, we'll get up at 8 o'clock, we'll do the pod, we'll finish by 9, crack on with writing some stuff. And now I'm just going to go back under the duvet. There's a couple of issues here, Kieran. I mean, the idea that a club will say we'll bring the season ticket holders out is nonsense, because there's 27,000 Americans who won't be buying tickets, and defeats the object, doesn't it? And also the irony being that I've got friends in the States who are NFL fans who are still absolutely furious if it's their club that gets chosen to play in London or Germany, because they miss out. And so there are issues around season tickets. So what does a club do at the start of the season? Do you offer people a potential 1/19th discount?
I suspect that will be the case.
There are issues around the broadcast, because they always say, well, the games will be live on telly. Well, if they're going to be live on telly at a normal time, then it's going to be having to kick off at 7 o'clock in the morning if it's in Australia. And then, of course, there are issues around player welfare, because the managers, it's bad enough. We know from the PFA. I'd love to hear Maheta's take on this. That's somebody's either fallen asleep on their traffic hall. People are quite impatient around this way. See, there you go. So you get the lovely sound of ducklings, and we get the odd parakeet. I mean, what stage of the season are these games taking place? Are they the last game of the season, the first game of the season? Is it Boxing Day? Because I don't think there'll be many players who would be particularly happy if they're told, right, middle of November, you're flying halfway around the world, and then, oh, by the way, you've got to come back next week because you're playing at Chelsea next Wednesday. There are so many issues around this as well. It's not just the fact that the game shouldn't be played outside the league they're in. Simple as that. There's all sorts of things. So I think this is something we look at in more detail and then have a longer discussion, to be honest. Now, Kieran, this story was one that we broke the other night, or last night in Rotherham, Monday night in Rotherham. Yeah, Monday night in Rotherham. It's 8:30 in the morning. A lot of fans didn't know this story. It seems like a small story, but it's a sinister one, and it concerns the Sheffield Wednesday Supporters Trust and a meeting they had with the Sheffield Wednesday Supporters Engagement Panel.
Yes, I believe that the trust used to be on the engagement panel, were then not invited to the engagement panel, and the other people who were attending say, hold on, it's a voice. So I suspect they have been critical. Certainly if you go to the Sheffield Wednesday Supporters Trust website, they are not fans of Dejan Chansiri. The meeting took place over a long period of time. And then the club put out minutes, and then there was a tweet to say that the trust have not signed off the minutes themselves because they don't believe that they're a true reflection of what was said. And then it descended into one of these spats and rabbit holes. The club put out a statement to say, well, we believe that it is appropriate. We've now had further discussions. I think the chair of Sheffield Wednesday Supporters Trust, he was being criticised because people thought it was him who was behind the tweet and so on. So it's all got very messy. Sheffield Wednesday fans, a proportion of Sheffield, some of them are saying that Dejon Chansiri has been a generous, and he has been a generous owner. There's no doubt about it. But as an outside observer, I think he's been a very naive owner. Clearly, English is his second language. I'm not being critical of that because, let's face it, it's still a million times better than our command of the Thai language. So we can't be overly critical. But I think he is unfamiliar with the nuances of football. And as we've said on many an occasion, if you're a football club owner that doesn't understand the football industry, you will find that you've got a friend for every pound that you've got in your bank account, and for many that have gone beyond. The late payment of wages in March, and to be honest, they were not the only club to be late in paying wages in March. And I heard a story yesterday, we're recording this on Wednesday morning, that another club in the Championship was potentially being late with its wages, although, again, I've had confirmation that the wages have now been paid. But why is this taking place? Well, it's the arse end of the season. The clubs aren't bringing in any cash, so therefore they are reliant upon owners to fill that gap. And if the owner has got distractions, if the owner has money in many different bank accounts in many different locations, getting things over the line isn't always easy, especially if the owners are starting to lose interest in the club because they've got nothing to play for. So why should I make such a huge fuss? But reading the Trust website and going on to Owls Talk, which is I think the main Sheffield Wednesday fans message board, clearly there's a breakdown in the relationship between the owner and the fan base. Dejon Chansiri has said, I've only received derisory offers for the club. Now, again, going back to the Rotherham gig, there was a Sheffield Wednesday fan who appeared to be very knowledgeable. He says, well, there was an initial offer of £43 million for Sheffield Wednesday. And that was one of the questions which came to us up on stage. And did I think that was a fair offer? I said, I think Sheffield Wednesday is worth more than that, but as an opening gambit, and you always go in low, especially for a business which is not making money. If I was on the sell side, I might invite somebody to the table for further discussions. I personally think that Sheffield Wednesday is probably worth sort of 60 to 70 if everything can be put into alignment. And so on, but there clearly does need to be fresh investment there. So that's where we were. It's good to have trust, and I always say when I'm doing job interviews for people, I try to keep it simple. If I'm employing somebody, do I like you? Do I trust you? Can you do the job? Now, what am I doing as a Sheffield Wednesday fan? I'm effectively employing an owner or a chief executive. You might say, well, hold on, if the owner's the owner, should it be the other way around? No. Sheffield Wednesday fans are the owners of Sheffield Wednesday Football Club. The owner is the custodian, the shareholder, the investor is the custodian. I don't dislike Dejon Chansiri. I honestly think he is a well-meaning individual who doesn't really know the industry well enough. And therefore, it's reliant upon having people around him who can give him a lot of advice. I don't think he's necessarily historically got that advice. Do I trust him? Well, he's been late with wages. He's made some fairly strange statements to fans. And now, admittedly, they've said some pretty harsh things to him as well. Can he do the job? The evidence would suggest that the jury's out, I think is the politest way you can describe that.
Yeah, I think football clubs need to learn that the job of a supporters trust isn't just to say you're great.
Yeah.
Basically, the supporters trust, everybody involved in the supporters trust will be committed to the football club. Again, football club and football club owners always underestimate the intelligence of the average football fan. It's the same on fan advisory boards. I hear week after week stories from different fan advisory boards of the club representatives being amazed at the level of knowledge that the fans have on these things, which for the clubs are a box-ticking exercise and for the fans are a way of articulating some concerns. But I have to say, I've got a slight soft spot for Dejan Chansiri at the moment because I learnt to my delight that in South Yorkshire, you can't go wrong with a Chansiri taxi joke. Essentially, there weren't many lols, but every time there was a slight lol, you think, I've just bunging a joke about Chansiri's taxi being late. There's a couple of clubs have new owners by the look of things, Kieran. Leyton Orient being the first one.
Yes, Leyton Orient have been 100% acquired by GSG LOFC Limited. But the majority owner here is an American investor called David Gandler. I believe he's going to end up with 78% of the club. The current chair, Nigel Travis, from Dunkin' Donuts, or the Dunkin' Group. I think I formerly incorrectly said Krispy Kreme, and I was corrected. For the wrong donuts. I think you want Gromit. So Nigel's going to stay on, and there appears to be a lot of ambition. I mean, Leyton Orient are, I think they're towards the right end of League One. The ambition is A, to get into the Championship, and B, to get a new ground. I think you and I are probably old enough to remember when Leyton Orient were in the old second division.
Yeah, I remember one particular game the year we were promoted in 1979. I think they were our penultimate. With a brilliant young team as well.
They were, because we drew 3-3. We had Martin Chivers playing for us in those days.
Did you?
Remember, he scored in that match.
Oh, I used to love Martin Chivers till you told me that.
Yes, he wasn't at the prime of his career, but he still scored, and it's well, again, isn't it just daft and great? I can remember matches from 1978 at Leyton Orient. That is by part of football is part of your life, because these are the stories that we say and we discuss with our mates in the pub.
Yeah,
and that's why football is cool. And if you're hosting those matches overseas, those Brighton fans, those Palace fans won't be going to those matches those weekends. And it's starting to take away the fabric of the game. Yeah,
we've mentioned this before, Kieran, but Orient, if they have those ambitions, they will have to move because they are hemmed in. It's a great ground, but they are hemmed in by it. What's the name of the company you say David Gandler's company was called?
It's a company which has been newly formed, GSG LOFC. So, many...
What? I know. Why do so many of these investment companies have names that sound like secure passwords?
Yes,
they're always really. Is there a reason? I'm serious. Is there a reason they come up with complicated names? Are they trying to put people off the scent? People like you that like to follow a paper trail?
It can be for that reason. Although, Companies House it's got quite good search function. So for when you are hunting around for these things, but there are some weird names of companies. Quite often when you're setting up an off-the-shelf company, you just go for something. You can't clearly have something which is passing itself off to be something else.
Oh, okay.
So they lob in a few names on top of it, or a few letters. But I don't know anybody that dislikes Leyton Orient. They're one of those clubs, aren't they?
They are, but ironically, I just that really annoyed. It's just like the amount of people who say to me, "Oh yeah, I've always liked Palace. They're my second favourite club." Just leave the room, turn around, go away. Orient fans get furious at what they call being patronised by the rest of, because the rest of London football just go, "Oh God, love them, God bless them, Orient." They don't, and I don't blame them. It's a fascinating history, the history of Leyton Orient, whatever they call themselves at any one time. And they're a fantastic club to visit. They're a really good club to visit. Most clubs are.
You know that feeling when someone shows up for you just when you need it most? That's what Uber is all about. Not just a ride or dinner at your door. It's how Uber helps you show up for the moments that matter. Because showing up can turn a tough day around or make a good one even better. Whatever it is, big or small, Uber is on the way. So you can be on yours. Uber, on our way.
At Capella University, you can learn at your own pace with our FlexPath learning format. Take 1 or 2 courses at a time and complete as many as you can in a 12-week billing session. With FlexPath, you can even finish the bachelor's degree you started in 22 months for $20,000. A different future is closer than you think with Capella University. Learn more at capella.edu. Fastest 25% of students. Cost varies by pace, transfer credits, and other factors. Fees apply.
There's a takeover, Kieran, that we discussed the other night, so I already know in advance that you're not happy about it.
Yes, last Friday, the former fan-owned club, Matlock Town, confirmed that it had been taken over by David Hilton. Now, David Hilton is the previous owner of Ilkeston Town. He is the previous owner of Scunthorpe United. He is the previous owner of the names David White and David Anderson and David somebody else. He is the previous occupier of cell 421 for having committed 15 counts of fraud and being sentenced to a 2-year sentence. He was banned from being a director of any company in the UK for a period of 5 to 6 years. So you might say, why have the shareholders of Matlock Town, the fans, the season ticket holders who had this vote, why have they voted for him? Well, clearly he's put forward a persuasive case. I've seen a very long letter which has been sent out to fans, full of praise for David Hilton. I think this is after the deal went through, and there's been talk about a £200,000 donation. The former chairman, who was sacked by David Hilton, has called into question whether this is a true donation. I cannot comment. I've not seen the books. What I have seen the books of, however, are the books of Scunthorpe United Football Club. And while Scunthorpe United have submitted summarised accounts to Companies House, perfectly legal, by the way, for them to do that, the more detailed accounts mysteriously came into my inbox.
Oh.
And there was a £250,000 debt write-off. So somebody owes Scunthorpe United £250,000 and that money has not been paid. I don't know who that is. David Hilton was in charge of Scunthorpe United Football Club for a period of about 8 months. During that period, he locked out the previous owner, who actually owned the stadium. He set up a scheme for, I think, lifelong membership, but you had to pay £1,900 for the privilege in terms of your season ticket holder. There were some other schemes. I think there was spiky relationships between him and a proportion of the fan base. He previously attempted to acquire Bury Football Club, and when Bury Football Club did an investigation into his background, again, things started to get a bit testy on social media. Matlock Town has now made it very difficult for people to put up comments on the Matlock Town Facebook page. And I've also been led to believe that Matlock Town has removed certain posts about the club, presumably to do with the owner. If you take a look at the 8-month period of ownership of Scunthorpe United, in 2023, just before David Hilton acquired the club, Scunthorpe United had 164 employees. In the 2024 accounts, that 164 had decreased to 52. So over 100 people were no longer employed. That is quite a significant change. He has already made reference to, and we have spoken to some fairly senior journalists who know far more about this story than we do, but this is not a criticism of the print media or other media. They've got bigger fish to fry. But again, going back to the letter which was coming to our domain, there is talk about a dispute with the cricket club with whom they have I think a common border. So, cricket club, nice little town like Matlock, nice bit of real estate there. That could be worth a lot of money. So, wait to see what happens. But I think for those Matlock Town fans who think, £200,000 donation, this is a sign of good faith. It has to be pointed out that this was, I think this took place in October and November of last year, and it was used to buy players. Well, Matlock Town were relegated last weekend, and part of the reason why they were relegated was because they had points deducted for fielding an ineligible player. Why was that? Well, some people would say that would be due to the incompetence of the people who are running the club.
I think it's fair to point out, though, Kieran, that he must have offered something decent because Matlock Town fans voted.
Yeah, they did
to sell the club to him. They were a community-owned club, and they voted to sell the club to him. So he must have had a credible offer on the table. Secondly, Kieran, this seems like an obvious question. We talk about a £250,000 debt being written off. At what level of management would that decision be taken? I'm assuming it could only be the club owner who has the authority or the inclination to write off a debt of that amount to a football club. Would that be the case?
Yes, it would have been a decision made at board level.
Right. Okay.
Now, there are new owners in. It could be. I believe that some people have asked the club and they say we're not at liberty to discuss private matters, and they're perfectly entitled to say no to such inquiries.
Now, I know you have a soft spot for Tranmere Rovers, Kieran, but you're one of those annoying fans that has a soft spot for a lot of clubs. But Tranmere Rovers have found a way of getting some money into the coffers.
That's right. Last week at Company's House, a document appeared, but I think it took quite a few people by surprise. They have taken out a debenture deed. A debenture deed is another word for a mortgage. This is on their campus, their training facilities campus, and this is a guy called Christian Nixon. Now, I've done a thorough search. I've Googled Christian Nixon. I can't find out who this person could be. And we know that Tranmere Rovers is certainly up for sale. So it could be that the existing owners will say, well, we're not prepared to put more money into the club. And again, we've got this issue of there still are bills to be paid. So it looked to me, it looks like probably some form of short-term funding for working capital purposes. Tranmere fans, they've now secured League Two status, but again, they don't appear, or a proportion of them seem to have not be as big fans of Mark Palios as perhaps they were a couple of years ago. And that's part of the job. If a club's doing well as owner, you're held in high regard. If the club isn't doing well, then you are deemed to be responsible for that. Football's far more complicated than that, but that's the way things are. So yes, I think this has taken a few people in the Tranmere fan base by surprise. Certainly, I was contacted by a few fans when this happened. And if you need money, you need money.
Mm. Our next story, Kieran, is our anti-penultimate story, where it is. I'm going to suggest that you mention it as briefly as possible, because it's about the EFL and some concerns they have regarding the front runner for the independent regulator job. But as I think we'll probably be doing a special one-off pod when the regulator is actually appointed, I suggest that you just give us a brief outline now, and then we'll talk about it in far more detail, as we will every aspect of the regulator when he knows we know who he is.
Yeah, the front runner is certainly believed to be David Cogan, formerly negotiated TV deals on behalf of Premier League, EFL, WSL. Very good negotiator. He's also a donor to Labour List, and I think the EFL clubs are concerned because I think they feel that he had a fantastic relationship with Richard Scudamore, former head of the Premier League, and that he's too close to the Premier League. It does seem on the face of it, if it's supposed to be an independent regulator, those people who said, oh, it's going to be a political football, they now have greater weight to that argument. And I know Martin Samuel, who is very anti-regulator, he's got an opportunity, and he's taken it, I can assure you, to say, been telling you this all along. The optics don't look good, although everybody I've spoken to speaks very, very highly of David Cogan. If I'd perhaps been one of the other applicants who doesn't come from a political background, and I've been through all of the trials and tribulations of putting together a case for me to be appointed, and then I've seen this, I suspect I would feel very, very disappointed.
Yeah, as I say, let's talk about it when we know it to be a truth.
Yeah,
Martin, he is anti-regulator, isn't he, Martin Samuel? He must have been regulated within an inch of his life in the previous life. It does make you wonder where he gets some of his information from, Kieran, but I'm not going to speculate about that because last time I did that, we nearly ended up in court. Aston Villa, Kieran, penultimate story. Need to find a few bob for a bit of building work.
Yes, Aston Villa and also Leeds United. We have just we've seen this happen in the last few days. Villa are expanding the North Stand at Villa Park. The intention is to take the capacity of Villa Park to over 50,000, and Villa will certainly fill it. Their aim is for that to be completed because they want to be part of the hosting of Euro 28. It's going to cost at least £100 million. Again, usual things you get to hear about. Multifunction stadium. They want to do more concerts there. That makes sense. Regeneration of the local area. And most importantly, I think, improve transport links because getting to Whitton Station is a pain in the butt.
It is. It really is.
As an away fan, I was on. When the first time I went, I thought I was bound to be very central. No, it's not.
Nah.
It's like you get to New Street.
You just do what all London fans do. Just get to the main station, get a cab. It'd be £3. I'm laughing, Kieran, because I know you're reminding me of my dear old dad, God rest his soul at the moment, because I know you want this to finish at 9 o'clock. My dad, if he wanted, shall we say, guests of my mother to leave, would start giving little signals like tapping his watch, and if that didn't work, he'd then set his alarm clock in front of them, turn off all the fish tank lights. So in the last 2 minutes, you've been doing all the equivalent. You've been turning off the fish tank lights, tapping your alarm clock, because I know you've got an important thing happening. So we'll just in 2 words, Kieran, we'll discuss this properly next time, but just in 2 words, who's going to be broadcasting the Club World Cup live in the UK?
Channel 5.
There we go.
And it's live.
Don't forget, you can now join our Price of Football Club where you'll get ad-free listening. I'm going to slow this down just to really annoy you. You get bonus episodes. Oh, I wonder what else you can get. Oh, there's all sorts. I've got a list here somewhere. Hang on a second. You just go to Price. Oh, you tell you what you can do, and that's happening next week. You get your free Q&A with us if you're a club member, which is happening next week. You get all that by going to priceoffootball.com and click on Join the Club to sign up today. If you have a question you'd like answered on the show, we do a questions pod on Tuesday, then email us at questions@priceoffootball.com. Don't forget you can follow us on Twitter, X, and find us on YouTube. And if you'd like to buy our book, you can find details on our website. We'll be back on Tuesday with that questions pod. In the meantime, I shall hand you over to Mr. Kieran Maguire for his customary farewell, which I imagine is going to be the shortest one he's ever done.
Well, thank you very much as always, and thank you to Rotherham United for hosting us. We genuinely had a fantastic time, as well as all of those bonuses from joining the Price of Football Club. If you don't want to go down that route, and money's tight, why not just give us a review? And it doesn't matter what you can say. You can even say, you would rather have the show hosted by Dejon Chansiri and Ozzy Osbourne. And then the English translation might be required for both participants.
Oh my God, imagine the mutual confusion. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
The price of football. The price of football.